Welcome back to another episode of Bogdan knows stuff about conferences, and Richard sort of does, but doesn't really. In this episode, we are talking about whatever Bogdan wants, because I'm going to shut up and let him talk, sort of, and then I'll probably ramble. So over to Bogdan.
And I'll try to interrupt as much as possible.
Nice.
So we've talked a little bit last time about understanding behavior from content that you already have on before the event, and this time I wanted to ask you, I've got about session summaries. I've got, I don't know, 300 sessions, which are very nice, and lots of smart people on my show. And then I've got a transcript of this. So we're not talking about transcript, making the transcript itself, which is AI as well, but I have the transcript. What's the simplest start I can do to start making more use of that content?
Dump it into Claude projects.
So how do you dump it? Do I dump each session with a name, or do I dump everything in a Word file?
That's a good question. So you're touching on the most important thing for me in the world, which is I hate watching 1 to 2 hour long sessions, or even 45-minute sessions. I would hate watching this video that we're making or listening to us in a podcast, because it's just so much blah, blah, blah. And the bit that you want is somewhere lost in the middle of it. It's like, I really love listening to Bill Burr's podcast. I think it's really funny in his podcast. I don't really like his stand-up, but I love his podcast. But you have to suffer through about 15 minutes of sports news every time, and him rambling about what's happening in baseball, to get to the point where he talks about some really funny geopolitical issue that you actually are interested in. So session summaries is giving people a way to get to the part of the session that they actually care about, because they probably don't care about the whole session. They might, but they probably don't. So how do you get it into a place? So it's not just about getting it in somewhere where you can make a summary. Because if you make me a summary of Bill Burr's podcast, I don't want the first 3 bullet points about how the Chiefs did this week in their, I don't even know what sport they play, in match, whatever, and did they win or not. I want to have a summary specifically for me, something that works for me. So dumping it, so the basic thing, dumping it into Claude project means put in the session transcript into Claude as a file. Say, look, I've got this session. Here's what my audience want from that session. Here's the way that they like their summaries. This is what the people expect in general. How should we go about writing a summary? And then Claude can write a guide on how to write summaries for your specific audience, taking the session as an example that it has in its files. Then, as usual, you move that into your project. So you've got summary writing guide. And then what you can do is you can actually delete do the summary of that session from that project, delete the session transcript from the files, and then upload the next session transcript to the same project. So you always have the guide in the project files on how you need to write session summaries. And then you're just swapping out the session each time and starting a new conversation with Claude and saying, we've got the latest session in, it's session 35.txt. Can you please look in project files and make a summary based on the guide that we've produced? And then it just produces your summary, and away you go.
So just to add to that, we've talked about mapping audiences from Google Analytics last time, so you can even go and pick out the analysis overview of your audience and segment from that, presumably.
Well, I'm gonna do a Gary Vaynerchuk here. Sorry, because everybody bloody name drops him everywhere, I'm sure, in marketing, but I really like listening to him as well. And another person where summaries are important. By the way, he created a summary machine. He actually created a search engine where he puts all the transcripts of everything he's ever done in, like, it must be some sort of RAG or some special database. And you can go and search for a specific topic, and it'll pull out the 30 seconds of a talk, 60-minute talk he gave. There's 30 seconds that has a gold nugget. And Gary's a great example where he rambles a lot, but he repeats a lot of stuff. But sometimes he'll say something and he'll say, I've never said this in a podcast before, and he says it just maybe once, and then it's there as a little gold nugget. If you can listen to 30,000 hours of his content, you can grab it, but if not, anyway. So the point is,
let me take you a step back. So the first and simplest one, if you have a session, is to go into Claude, create the template in terms of how you want to do it, and then you can repeat the process relatively easily by importing new session data from there.
Yes. Now, so what I would say you should be doing is So I said, I don't want the same session summary as Bogdan does. Bogdan wants to know all about data and analytics and how to make charts and whatever. I want to know the gold nuggets, the things that I can instantly use that are about tech stuff. Any new tech that I didn't know about, for example, right? And maybe your session has those two things in it. So you go to your Google Analytics, as Bogdan said, you get your segmentation. So you maybe get like what this particular audience does, searches for, is interested in, whatever, and then upload that directly into each conversation. So or both of them, upload both of them, both profiles you have, techie people and analytics people, put them both into the chat. So not the hang on, I'll show you. So you've got your project, and you've got your files in there. So you've got your session transcript in there, the guide on how to make the summaries. Then use the uploader to have one specific context for this conversation. So I've just uploaded the two segmentations that I want to do for this specific session, which is in project files, or you can put it in the files if you want, but you can also just upload it directly. That'll be easier for the context. It'll be sure that Claude takes it into account. And then say, okay, I need you to make the summary, but two summaries, one for each segment. It may have to take 2 turns to do it. It may have to do the first one and then say, do you want me to continue? You say yes, it does the second one. And you could do that for 10, 20. The Gary Vaynerchuk thing would be do that for 30 different segments, because you can drill down really deep into each different type of attendee that you have and what they might like to see in a summary. And then you can have 30 summaries and post them all, and then run targeted ads on them in LinkedIn and target them to those specific audiences in LinkedIn or on Google or whatever.
What about if I want to do a topic discovery? So I have 100 sessions on 20 different subjects, and I want to say what's the AI conversation around the 100 sessions.
That's harder, because if you have 100 sessions, that's a lot of text. How do you analyze 100 different very long texts and get that to produce some sort of summary of that? You would have to go down the route. So you wouldn't be able to do that with, okay, hang on, two options. Option number one, use Google AI, because you go AI.Google. So if you don't know about this, you need to know about this. Not Gemini, don't go to Google Gemini. You go ai.google.dev, or it's like aistudio.google.com.
AI Studio, yeah.
Yeah, but either you get it either way. ai.google.dev, you'll be fine. Go into the playgrounds and go to.
You're not sharing your screen if you're not sure.
Oh, for the love of Pete. Right. So go to google.ai, ai.google.dev, or aistudio.google.com. Same thing. Go to playground. Go here. Go to Gemini. I know I said not Gemini, but it'll make sense. All of them are free at the moment. If it says paid, you'd rather avoid it for the moment. A lot of this Google stuff is free. So let's get Google Pro, for example. This is probably the best one for what you're trying to do, because it has a context limit of 2 million. So even with 100 sessions, you should probably be able to get away with that. Make sure you turn off stuff like Google search. You don't need that. Just keep it the way it is. Keep everything else the way it is. Temperature, all that stuff. Thinking, it depends. Yeah, keep it at high. It's fine. Doesn't matter. Then upload. So upload your files, or stick all of your summaries into a Google Drive folder, because it's obviously integrated, and synchronize the Google Drive folder. It'll be able to pull those 100 sessions. It's got that massive limit. And then maybe, right, Google is a terrible hallucinator, so it's going to probably get things wrong. It's going to miss things. So maybe what you want to do is like get it to, what could you get it to do? Identify the files in which there are things about AI and what they say, to at least say eliminate 60% of the session summary. So maybe then you can go back to Claude with that 40%, and it'll be within the context limit, which is at 200,000. But by the time you're watching this, Claude is already testing a 2 million token limit, so they might actually just be able to do the same thing. Anyway,
But the principle remains
the principle remains: get into a tool that can read that much content, at least to get it to pull out which documents you need, and then throw those into Claude, or put all of them into project files, and then tell Claude, could you please summarize the AI content in session 1, 5, 7, 25, 27, and just list them out, and it'll go and pick those files from project files. It never takes all the files at once unless it needs to. It'll pick out the files it needs, and then it'll write you the summaries from those sessions. But yeah, you're fighting with context limit possibly, but if you've only got like 10 sessions, just dump them all in here and just say, find me anything about AI in all the sessions I've uploaded.
Yeah, so then you can go a little bit more. So if you take it to the next step, and I want to tell you, okay, this is nice, I've tested it out, this works. What would you do for my team to have a tool without having to go to Claude to do this?
RAG
so if
search.
I want to scale this dramatically in terms of automate my processes.
RAG search. Could you maybe do that with event type? Hold on. I'll give it a little example. I don't know if it'll work, but just for fun. Is it in here? Hold on a second.
That was the button, if I remember correctly, in terms of tools.
There's the chat, knowledge chat, that one, right? So this is a free tool, open source, and it's based on RAG. So you can go to view source in here, and you'll see whenever we make this live, configure tool, right? So here in this tool, this is what we call RAG searching. So this is, it's all explained in here, I think, that it has a system where you upload your summaries, so text files, documents, whatever, Excel files, upload your 100 summaries in there. Then you can ask it a question like, find me all the things that talk about AI. And what it does is it splits automatically the documents into chunks. So it'll split them up into like 200-word chunks and then store them all. And there'll be, thousands and thousands of chunks. Then what it does is a search where it says AI, just AI topics or someone talking about AI, something like that. It'll turn that into AI language and then use that to search the database. And even if someone says, I'm talking about artificial intelligence, or I'm talking about the future of artificial general intelligence, it doesn't matter what they say. If the word semantically is similar to what you're searching for, it will find it. So that way it will pull you out anything that even has different wording, but actually is talking about AI. So if I'll give you an example. Someone says, in my talk, I'm going to talk about Claude and Claude Chat and Claude Code. They didn't say AI, so a regular search wouldn't find it. But they said Claude, and semantically that is something similar to AI, and so it would pull that out as a result. And then you would see the different documents where AI is showing up. It would show you the results. So this is an example of the way we do that just for a chat, but you could take the same concept with RAG retrieval and give this repo to Claude and say, hey Claude, could you please develop my team a system where we can upload all of our sessions, and then we can search through and find specific topics that we can put in social media posts. And it'll be able to use this base, and it knows what RAG is. It's very, very common.
Yes. And just to add a little bit, because we've been working on a summarization tool for Elea, for example, where we would take steps in terms of logic of editorialization. So we would like to, because LLMs are very good at tagging context, for example. So if you have 100 summaries of the sessions, you can start tagging them by LLMs. We can also extract key topic points, because then it's a search within key topic points, and you would have these steps more agentic framework to a certain degree, where you would you'd have a pre-template of what you want to get out. So like key takeaways, key quotes from every speaker, tagging everything in there, and then you can add to that database, technically speaking. So
you be careful, because you're talking about agentic, and you know that I'm very sensitive about that. So what you're talking about is right. Agreed. What people would need to know, if you do the deep dive into RAG and you go down the rabbit hole, then you'll notice that plain old RAG is fine for certain things. But if you want, like, say, you want to have a post about people who speak negatively about AI. I don't know why, but right? So if you just do a RAG search and you say people talking negatively about AI, the RAG might not pick up on the fact that someone says, I hate AI. Like semantically, it might be similar, but it's not, it's wording rather than some sentiment analysis. So what you might want to do is set up a system in your tool that you develop. You would say, okay, we're going to upload a session, but before you chunk it and put it into the RAG database, I want you to attach onto your chunk a bit at the top that says sentiment, and it could be positive or negative, summary of document, and so there's a little summary in each chunk of what the document is about, speaker's feelings, or I don't know, whatever it is that you want to put in there. Have a first AI step that adds that detail to each chunk by analyzing the chunk and the whole document and then saying, okay, I'll put this, and this as details. Then it goes into the RAG database. Then if I say people who hate AI, it's going to look at that whole chunk and see that there's a negative sentiment and that they're talking about AI. So that will help. It's just a really, really basic example, but that's the path that you go down, that we've gone down, where you get very precise RAG results from, I can't remember what they call that, but it's there's a name for it.
Hybrid search. Let's call it hybrid search, because it's been used so much and it's so different in so many cases.
Hybrid search goes down another road where you can have a classic database alongside your RAG database, and you can do two searches. You do a classic keyword or like fuzzy search, and then you do a RAG search, and then you do what they call re-ranking, where you look at the RAG results, 100 RAG results, you get the top the database results, and you give more weight to certain RAG results because of the extra search that you've done in the database. But anyway, that's just so down the rabbit hole. You'll spend weeks.
You can spend weeks, but start simple to get an idea of what you get out of it. Segment based on your audience. Then go and play with a little bit of RAG, because that can help. And then go down the rabbit hole and either come to us and tell us your wins, or we can tell you our wins. And basically, it's a long conversation that can help a lot.
Yeah, and just for a final point, don't be, because I said I listened to Gary Vee. I'm not a marketing person, but there's one thing I really agree on, and it's not to be afraid. I have so many clients where I hear them say, "Oh, we have to be careful because we don't send out emails that often, and we don't like to annoy people." It's like, because you know that the classic email that's one size fits all is annoying. Why don't you change that and get rid of that fear by pivoting and saying, you know what, we're going to send 30 emails a week, but it's going to be one email to each segment, but we're going to create 30 different copies and then have 30 personalized emails for different segments. It sounds scary, and you would have had the team to do that before, but you can do it today with AI, but just asking Claude, could we do 30 different copies, please? And then, don't be afraid of leaning into this thing of ultra personalization using AI, and, being a massive poster, being, putting out loads of content, even posting 30 a day on your LinkedIn, because the algorithm will pick up the different types of copy and target them to different segments of your followers as well. So there's nothing, get rid of this idea that, we have to be careful because maybe people will get annoyed or they'll downvote us, or LinkedIn will mess with the algorithm because nobody likes our stuff. Just, post as much as you can, use AI and benefit from AI as much as you can. Take advantage of it.
Perfect. Then let's wrap on that bombshell.
Wrap it up.
And go for, see you next time.
See you next time.